In this video, I'm going to give you a housing market update for March 2021. I'm going to answer the question, will the property market crash in 2021, and give you my property market prediction for this year. So my name is Simon Zutshi. I'm the author of Property Magic, the Amazon #1 property bestseller. I'm the founder of the Property Investors Network. I've been investing for 25 years. And in this video, I want to share with you what I think is going to happen in the property market this year. Now, I do these updates every single month, and I must admit that this month is a little bit different. I have changed my view of what I think is going to happen in the property market in 2021. For the simple reason, we've just had at the beginning of this month the announcement by the Chancellor, Rishi Sunak, about his budget. And he's put some things in place that are definitely going to affect the property market. Now, I think to understand this, we need to look back a little bit. If we look back to 2020, when this pandemic started, the Bank of England predicted that UK property prices were going to fall by 16%. And I think given all the fact we went in recession, all the people that were losing jobs and things, it's a pretty good indication that was probably about right. However, the UK government reacted to this very well, I think, and they obviously put the furlough scheme in place. This is where people who were not required at their work, instead of being made redundant, were put onto 80% of the salary and basically sit at home. Still not a great position to be in because of the uncertainty about your job, but not bad sitting at home and getting 80% of your salary. Anyway, so that's one thing. And then they also introduced this stamp duty holiday. Now, these two factors have helped prop up the property market. Imagine if millions of people were made unemployed, they might not be able to afford their mortgages, many people would need to sell their property. There'd be a very, very negative down sentiment in the market and the economy, and people wouldn't be buying property basically. And all the businesses going shut and all the shops and restaurants and bars that are closing and have not been open, them going out of business would be very bad for the economy. So this economic downturn would have caused property prices to fall, and as I said, the Bank of England predicted 16%. But the intervention by the government has helped prop up the property market. It stimulated it because of the stamp duty holiday, which was until the end of March 2021. Add to that the fact there was lots of money in the economy, all the money from the bounce back loans and SIBLs as well. This is why the property market has absolutely boomed in 2020. To be perfectly honest, I thought we would see the property market come down by the end of 2020 because I thought furlough was going to finish in October. Now, they announced that they were going to extend it out until April, March 2021. And I thought, okay, well, let's see what happens then, because that's when also the stamp duty holiday finishes. And I was pretty convinced that we would see, after a boom, you always see a crash. And I thought we'd see that happening in 2021. However, the Chancellor made some big announcements on the 3rd of March. What he said was, first of all, furlough is being extended to September 2020. So instead of all the people in February, March losing their jobs, they've got a good 6 months to go. And also, they're putting a lot of money into the economy. They're going to help leisure businesses in particular. And I'm pretty sure the Prime Minister's laid out this plan of how they want to open up the country. If that goes to plan, by the time we get to the summer, lockdown will pretty much be finished. Most adults in the UK are going to be vaccinated, at least their first jab, by the end of July. This means public sentiment is going to be up, and also I think there's going to be a boom in the economy. All the people who've been stuck in for a long time, they've got money to spend, they're going to come out, they're going to be going on holiday, they're going to be eating in restaurants, bars. There might be social distancing and those kind of things still in place, but to all intents and purposes, it's going to be like back to normal. This is going to be a massive boost to the economy, and I think because of this, I think we're going to see the property market continue. Especially as the government has said, well, we're not going to finish the stamp duty holiday on the 31st of March 2021. They've said they're going to extend it for another 3 months to the end of June. So for purchases up to 500,000, there's no stamp duty for first-time buyers or people selling, moving to the next property. That's going to stimulate the market. And for properties up to 250,000, they're extending it for a further 6 months from the end of March up to the end of September. So in other words, first-time buyers who are buying properties up to £250,000, and given that's about the average price in the UK, most first-time buyers are probably going to be buying property below that. So this is going to work incredibly well for first-time buyers, and they are going to be able to come in and pick up properties without paying stamp duty. It's been an incredible stimulant that's worked very well so far. It's going to continue to keep the property market topped up. So whereas on previous videos I've said that, you know what, I think we're going to see the market come down in 2021, I think it might actually extend out until the very end of 21 or even the beginning of 22. I'm convinced, even if the economy's starting to bounce back, we are going to see property prices come down for the simple reason that there will be some people who've come off furlough who haven't gone back to jobs. They might well lose their jobs. There are going to be more and more businesses that are going to suffer. I think the economy is going to have a harder time because at the moment, everyone's got these bounce back loans and civil loans and it's kept people afloat. It's very soon when people are going to have to start paying back those loans. That's when there's going to be a bit of a challenge. And I think that's when people might start to struggle. And we're going to see more businesses go out of business, more shops close, more restaurants and bars not be able to sustain the losses they've made, even though they're going to have this boom in the summer. So unfortunately, don't want to be the kind of the proclaimer of doom, but I think the economy is going to get worse. That will trickle through to the property market. So I'm changing my prediction. I think probably by the end of 2021, or certainly by the beginning of 2022, that's when we're going to see the property market start to come down. So will the property market crash in 2021? I don't think it's going to crash anymore. So I've changed my view based on what the government has decided to do and the recent announcement by the Chancellor of the Exchequer. I think actually this budget they put in place is a very smart budget. They've frozen all of the personal reliefs that people get. What that means is that they're saying as we earn more over time, we'll start to pay increasingly larger amounts of tax. It's kind of a bit of a stealth tax, really. So rather than putting up the tax rates, they've frozen the limits. So we're going to pay more tax over time. And that's understandable because the government so far spent something like £280 billion supporting the economy through this COVID-19 crisis. They're going to be spending a lot more than that with the extensions to furlough that they've just announced. So this is going to be a big debt that is going to need to be paid back at some point in the future. So there's no doubt that that we are going to have to pay more tax as property investors and business owners and people who earn lots of money are going to have to fund all of this. Now, a couple of other property things that I think are also going to affect the property market. The Chancellor announced that he's not making any changes to capital gains tax at the moment. You might remember before this announcement in the newspapers, there were big headlines saying that capital gains tax was going to potentially double up to 40%. And actually, a lot of property investors that I know were panicking, thinking, oh my God, I want to sell properties now because otherwise I'm going to pay all this tax. So actually, we've got a bit more time. And you know what? I think if we do have the market still doing very well, this might be a great time to sell one or two properties that you don't actually want. You know, sell the property, pay the tax, bring the money in, reinvest it in better properties with better cash flow, better return on investment. So I think we're going to see a number of landlords looking to do that. And with a buoyant market, there'll be lots of buyers waiting to buy those properties. So a bit of a U-turn on what I've predicted in the past based on what's changed. And I think maybe it's not a surprise. I think if the government had ended the stamp duty at the end of March 2021, then things would have dropped off a cliff and it would have been really bad for the economy. By kind of extending it and phasing this in, I think it's a very smart move that they have done. So should you be investing in property right now? Well, yes, I believe as long as you find a great deal that gives you cash flow, you know you can rent it out, as long as you're holding long term, I think you should still be buying property. While the market's booming, it's a bit harder to get deals, but there are always deals out there if you know what you're looking for and if we're taking action to find those deals. You might want to check out my book, Property Magic, where we talk about the 5 golden rules of property investing. Number 1 is we want to buy from motivated sellers. Number 2 is we buy in an area of strong rental demand. Number 3 is we buy for positive cash flow. Number 4, we hold long term. And number 5, we always want a cash buffer. As long as you've got rule 2, 3, and 4 in place, i.e. you buy in an area of strong rental demand, you're getting positive cash flow, and also you're holding long term. It doesn't matter if we buy now and 6 months later, 12 months later, it's worth slightly less. As long as we can afford to hold that property and we're holding long term, then over the long term, we know prices are going to go up. Why does that happen here in the UK? Well, we live on an island. with a limited amount of accommodation and an increasing population. So the long-term trend of property is up. But remember, prices go up and they come down. It's a cyclical market. Rather than trying to guess when's the best time to buy and best time to sell, I think the very best strategy in property is finding a motivated seller, help them solve their problem, buy at a good price, hold that property long term. That's how you create true long-term wealth in property. So the market's always changing. I'm going to be doing another update next month. I do hope this has been useful. Come and put something in the comments if you've got any questions. If you agree or disagree, I'd love to hear your feedback. Make sure you subscribe to the channel as well. Click on the bell to get notified when new videos come out. We do a couple of videos every single week. And, please like the video, because if you like it, other people will see it and hopefully they'll benefit from this knowledge as well. So my name is Simon Zutshi. I encourage you to invest with knowledge, invest with skill. I'll see you on the next video.